My son-in-law broke my eye socket in the factory I built with my own 2 hands. My daughter watched, then told me I deserved it. They thought the old machinist was finished. They were about to find out that even old steel can still cut deep. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me back up and tell you how a Thanksgiving dinner turned into the day my life exploded. The smell of roasted turkey usually meant home. It smelled like Linda, my late wife. She'd be humming in the kitchen, slightly off key, her face flushed from the oven heat. But this Thanksgiving, the air was thick, heavy. It smelled like cold metal and something rotten. It smelled like betrayal. I sat at the head of the table, my table, in the house I built. Crystal glasses sparkled. Linda's silverware was polished. Everything looked perfect. Everything was a lie. My left eye throbbed. It was swollen shut. The skin around it was an ugly map of purple and sickly yellow. It had been 2 days since the incident. Every blink felt like sandpaper scraping against my cheek. I looked across the table at Sarah, my daughter. She was 26, beautiful, but hard, brittle. She looked at me like I was an embarrassing stain on her expensive rug. When did I become the enemy? I wasn't sure, but I knew who led her there. Next to her sat Mark, her husband of 2 years. He was busy carving the turkey. A smug little smile played on his lips. He wore a cashmere sweater. It clung tightly to his gym muscles, muscles he had used to rearrange my face. He carved the bird like he owned it, like he owned everything, like he owned me. He was wrong. The room was too quiet. The silence was a living thing pressing in on us. My brother Robert sat to my right. His hand clenched his fork. His knuckles were white. He hadn't said more than 2 words since he arrived and saw my face. Robert knew. Also at the table was Emily, Mark's younger sister. Pale, nervous, she kept biting her lower lip, avoiding eye contact. She looked desperate to disappear. She knew something too. Fear radiated off her like heat from a furnace. Sarah finally broke the silence. She lifted her wine glass. The movement was sharp, theatrical. "Well," she announced. Her voice was loud, clear. "Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It's certainly been an eventful week." She looked directly at my black eye. Her smile widened. It didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were cold, dead. I waited for the blow. I knew it was coming. The insult landed like a punch to the gut. The room held its breath. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. It felt like time stopped. Mark paused his carving, waiting for the performance. "I think it's safe to say," Sarah continued, her voice dripping with satisfaction, "the old man finally got what he deserved." She raised her glass higher. "My husband taught him a lesson." My heart cracked. Right down the middle. This was my daughter, my little girl, the one I carried on my shoulders. My ears rang. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Mark chuckled, a low, unpleasant sound. He didn't even look up from the turkey. "That's right, honey," he said, sliding a slice onto a plate. "Sometimes respect needs to be enforced." Respect. He used that word, but he didn't know what it meant. I built Miller Machining from a 1-room garage into a thriving factory. I worked double shifts. I missed birthdays. I did it all for her, so she would never want for anything. And this was how she repaid me, with public humiliation and a broken face. But that wasn't the worst part. Robert dropped his fork. It clattered loudly against the china plate. The sound echoed in the quiet room. "Sarah," Robert said, his voice low and dangerous, "that is an absolutely disgusting thing to say. About your father. About anyone." Sarah just shrugged, unfazed, cold. "It's the truth, Uncle Robert," she said, sipping her wine. "Dad has been impossible lately. Stubborn, living in the past." She gestured toward Mark, like presenting a prize. "He refuses to see reality. Mark is just trying to help him, to secure our future. And Dad fights him at every turn." She made it sound so reasonable, so logical, like I was the problem. "By attacking him?" Robert's voice rose slightly. I could feel the anger radiating off him. Mark finally looked up. His eyes were cold, challenging. "It was hardly an attack," Mark said smoothly. He placed the carving knife down with exaggerated care. David tripped. I tried to catch him. He smiled. A snake's smile. "He's just clumsy in his old age. Isn't that right, David?" He was daring me to contradict him, daring me to fight back. I didn't say anything. I just stared back at him. I let the silence stretch. They wanted a reaction. They wanted me to yell, to make a scene, to prove them right. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. I just kept staring, remembering Tuesday afternoon, remembering the smell of machine oil and the taste of my own blood. The real fight hadn't started yet. The shop floor was quiet on Tuesday. It was late. I had let most of the crew go home early for the holiday week. Only Kevin, my youngest apprentice, was still there. He was finishing up a calibration on the new CNC machine. Kevin was a good kid, loyal, hard-working. The kind of kid I used to be. I was in my office, looking over the books. Things were good. Miller Machining had just landed a major contract. Aerospace supplier. A game changer. The future was solid. My legacy was secure, or so I thought. That's when Mark walked in. He rarely came to the shop. He didn't like the smell of oil and metal. He preferred boardrooms, expensive lunches, and talking about deals he never seemed to close. He didn't knock. He just walked in like he owned the place. "David, we need to talk," he announced. He closed the office door behind him. The lock clicked, loud in the quiet shop. I knew then something was wrong. The air in the office suddenly felt colder. "Mark, what are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I thought you and Sarah were at the country club." He slapped a thick leather folder onto my desk. It scattered invoices everywhere. "I'm here to finalize things," he said, his voice tight. "Your stubbornness is starting to affect the bottom line. Frankly, I'm tired of waiting. The bottom line. Always the bottom line with him." I opened the folder. I knew what it was before I even looked. A power of attorney document. A durable one. It would give him complete control. My business, my finances, my house, everything I owned, everything I had worked for. He wanted to erase me. "I've told you repeatedly, Mark. I'm not signing this," I said. I pushed the folder back across the desk. My hand was shaking slightly. "I am 60 years old. I am perfectly capable of running my own company." "Are you?" His voice dripped with sarcasm. "You're tired, David. You're slow. You're missing opportunities." He leaned in. His expensive cologne was overpowering, making me nauseous. "This aerospace contract. It's good, but it could be better," he continued, his voice smooth as oil. "I have connections you can only dream of. I can double the revenue in a year, but I need control." He sounded like a salesman pitching a bad investment, but the stakes were my life. "This company is my legacy," I said, my voice rising. "I built it with my own hands, with Linda by my side." My throat tightened at the mention of her name. "I'm not handing it over to a suit who's never touched a lathe in his life." Mark leaned closer. His face was inches from mine. "You don't have a choice, old man." His eyes were cold, dead. I realized then he didn't see me as a person. He saw me as an obstacle. "Sarah agrees with me," he continued, twisting the knife. "It's time for you to retire. Go play golf. Enjoy your golden years before you run this place into the ground and destroy our inheritance." Our inheritance? He already considered my money his. "Get out of my office," I said, my voice low and steady. "Sign the paper, David." "No." The assault happened fast. He moved fast. I didn't expect it. He grabbed my arm, twisted it. Pain shot up to my shoulder. He tried to force the pen into my hand. "Sign it," he yelled. His face was red, contorted with rage. He wasn't used to being told no. I pulled my arm back, stumbled slightly. "You're out of your mind," he roared in frustration. He looked around the office, his eyes wild. He needed control. He needed to win. He shoved me hard, with both hands. I lost my balance. My hip hit the corner of the heavy metal desk. I went down. My head snapped forward. My face smashed against the frame of the old Bridgeport mill in the corner. It was the first machine I ever bought. The pain was immediate. A white-hot explosion behind my eye. I tasted blood. The world spun. I lay there on the cold concrete floor, stunned, humiliated. Mark stood over me, breathing hard. He looked shocked for a brief second, shocked at what he had done. Then the shock faded, replaced by cold calculation. He adjusted his tie, smoothed his cashmere sweater. "You did that to yourself," he said. His voice was calm now, cold. "You tripped. Remember that." He picked up the folder. "We'll discuss this on Thanksgiving. Be reasonable, David. Don't make me lose my patience again." He walked out, leaving me there, bleeding on the floor of my own shop. The humiliation burned hotter than the pain, but the real nightmare was just beginning. Kevin found me a few minutes later. Mr. Miller. Oh my gosh, what happened? Are you okay? His young face was pale with shock. He rushed to my side. I tripped, Kevin, I lied weakly. I felt ashamed. Ashamed that I let it happen. Ashamed that my own son-in-law had attacked me in the place I considered my sanctuary. Kevin helped me up. The dizziness was overwhelming. You need a doctor, sir. That looks bad. I didn't go to the doctor. I went home. I iced my face, and I tried to process what had just happened. It wasn't just the physical attack. It was the realization that Mark was willing to hurt me, to get what he wanted. And worse, the sinking realization that my daughter was not just complacent, she was likely encouraging him. The silence from her was deafening. My world was collapsing, and I didn't know how to stop it. Later that evening, Robert stopped by. He took one look at my face, and his expression darkened. Who did this to you? He demanded. No greeting, just straight to the point. I tried to lie. I fell. Clumsy. Robert grabbed my arm, gently, but firmly. David, don't lie to me. I know a bruise from a fall, and I know a bruise from an attack. Who did this? His eyes searched mine. He already knew the answer. I told him the truth, the power of attorney. The escalating demands, the shove, the cold threat, the words tumbled out. A torrent of pain and betrayal. Robert paced my living room, furious, his hands clenched into fists. That snake, he muttered. I knew he was trouble the moment Sarah brought him home. He's a parasite, David. He sees dollar signs when he looks at you. He was right. I knew it. But hearing it out loud made it real. Sarah is on his side, Robert, I whispered. The admission tasted like ash. She thinks I'm incompetent. She thinks I'm holding her back. I felt broken. Old. Everything Mark said. She's being manipulated, Robert argued. He's isolated her from us, filled her head with nonsense about high society and easy money. He's turned her against her own family. Robert stopped pacing. He looked at me seriously. You have to fight back, David. You can't let them do this. You have to protect yourself, and you have to protect the business. Linda's legacy. How? I asked, feeling the despair wash over me. If I call the police, Sarah will never forgive me. If I cut her off, I lose her forever. The thought of losing her completely paralyzed me. Robert's next words hit harder than Mark's shove. You've already lost her, David, he said gently, firmly, at least the version of her you remember. He was right. The silence in the room confirmed it. Now you need to decide, he continued. Are you going to let them take everything else? You need a plan, a real plan. Not just anger. Anger wouldn't save me. Strategy would. I sat up all night. I looked at my life, my business, my choices. I thought about Linda. What would she want me to do? She would want me to be strong. She would want me to protect what we built, not let it be stolen by a greedy outsider. She wouldn't want me to lie down and die. The anger I felt started to shift. It crystallized, hardened into something cold and sharp. Resolve. By morning, I had a plan. It was cold, drastic, but necessary. I made some phone calls. The first was to Arthur Vance, my lawyer for 20 years. Arthur was sharp, expensive, but loyal. Arthur, it's David. I need your help, I said. I'm about to go to war. Arthur didn't hesitate. Tell me what you need, David. I need a full background check on my son-in-law, Mark, I said. Deep dive. Everything you can find. And I need it by tonight. The second call was to my accountant, Mrs. Petrov. She was an older woman, meticulous. Didn't miss a thing. Mrs. Petrov, I need a full forensic audit of the company accounts. Immediately, focus on any transactions linked to Mark. I had a nagging suspicion Mark wasn't just waiting for the takeover. He was already helping himself. Mrs. Petrov understood immediately. I suspected as much, Mr. Miller. You'll have it by this afternoon. I gathered the documents. The audit results came in. The background check Arthur delivered later that night. The findings were staggering, worse than I imagined, and I placed them all in a large black envelope. The trap was now I just had to wait for the prey to walk in. Back at the Thanksgiving table, the tension was thick enough to choke on. The memory of the assault hung in the air. My silence was unnerving them. "Please pass the potatoes," I said. My voice was calm, steady. Sarah looked surprised. She expected me to be angry, or maybe cowed and defeated. She didn't expect calm. Calm terrified them. "Good." Mark, emboldened by my silence, was holding court. Touting about his grand vision for Miller Machining. "First thing we do," he announced, gesturing grandly with his fork, "is liquidate the old equipment. It's ancient, David. We need computerized systems. Full automation." He talked about my machines like they were scrap metal. They were the tools that built my life. But he wasn't done. The next blow was aimed at the heart of the company. "And we'll need to trim the fat," he continued, slicing the air with his knife. "We'll cut the workforce by half. Easily. Efficiency is the name of the game." I saw Robert grip his knife. The men who worked for me were not numbers on a spreadsheet. They were family. I had paid for their kids' college tuition, helped them buy houses. Mark didn't understand that. Loyalty wasn't in his vocabulary. "Efficiency is important," I said quietly, "but quality is more important. Our clients, especially the aerospace firm, pay a premium because they know we do the best work." "Precision work," Mark laughed. A loud, barking sound. "Quality. That's cute. David, nobody cares about precision anymore. They care about speed and cost." He leaned back, satisfied. "You're a dinosaur, and it's time to evolve or die." He thought he was the meteor. He was wrong. The first conflict erupted quickly. It was Robert who lit the fuse. Robert leaned forward, his eyes locked on Mark. "Mark, you talk a big game." Mark looked annoyed. "What is it, Robert?" "Tell me," Robert said, his voice deceptively calm. "What do you know about the specific tolerances required for the new aerospace contract? The one David just signed." Mark paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. He clearly had no idea. "That's details," he deflected arrogantly. "I hire people to worry about details." Robert just shook his head in disgust. Mark wasn't just cruel, he was incompetent. The dinner dragged on, a slow torture of forced politeness and simmering resentment. Sarah started talking animatedly about the new house they were planning to buy, a mansion in the gated community across town, the one with the golf course and the private security. "We're closing next month," she said brightly. "It's 6 bedrooms. We need the space for entertaining." Entertaining who? The high society friends she thought Mark could give her. It was all built on a foundation of sand. The second conflict surprised me. It came from the quietest person at the table. Emily, Mark's sister, looked up from her plate. Her voice trembled. "A mansion, Mark? That seems extravagant." She looked genuinely worried. "Are you sure this is the right time?" Mark shot her a venomous look. She physically flinched. The movement was small, but I saw it. "My financial decisions are none of your concern, Emily," he hissed. "Stop being so pedestrian." Emily looked down, silent, but the fear in her eyes was plain to see. I watched them. I watched Emily shrink under her brother's glare. There was a story there, a history of control, intimidation. I thought about Linda. She always said, "Character is revealed by how you treat people who can do nothing for you." Mark's character was on full display, and it was rotten to the core. And I knew right then Mark had skeletons in his closet. Big ones. I needed to test Sarah. See how deep the poison had spread. It was time for the third test. "Sarah," I said, looking at the cold metal centerpiece she loved so much, "do you remember your mother's favorite Thanksgiving tradition? The gratitude bowl? Linda used to make us write down what we were thankful for. Read it aloud. Sarah used to love my mommy and daddy in big crayon letters." Now she just rolled her eyes, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. "Oh, Dad, not that dusty old thing," she brushed it off. It was so cheesy, old-fashioned. She brushed it off, like it meant nothing. Like the memories meant nothing. The disconnect was complete. She had no connection to the values we had tried to teach her. She had chosen Mark's world over ours. My little girl was gone, It hurt more than the black eye. Robert caught my eye. He looked grim. He knew what I was doing, confirming the depth of the rot before I cut it out. He stood up, started clearing the plates. "I need some air," he said abruptly. "David, help me with the dishes." It was a lifeline. I followed him into the kitchen. I needed a moment before the real storm hit. As soon as the kitchen door swung shut, Robert leaned against the counter. His face was tight with anger. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm trying not to punch your son-in-law in the face." Robert muttered. Then his expression changed. Became deadly serious. "David, I need to tell you something. Something I wasn't sure about. Until now." My blood ran cold. What else could there be? "Before dinner," Robert said, his voice low, "while you were getting the wine, I was outside on the porch. Mark was on the phone. I overheard him. What did he say?" I asked, dreading the answer. Robert's voice shook with rage. "He was bragging, David, to some friend of his. He called you a pathetic old fool." The words stung, but they didn't surprise me. "But what?" Robert said next. "That chilled me to the bone. He said he put you down on Tuesday at the shop," Robert continued. He admitted it, bragged about it. The anger I had suppressed started to bubble up, threatening to explode. And then he said, Robert continued, his eyes meeting mine, "By tonight the company would be his." And then the final blow. He said you'd be drooling in a nursing home within a year. He paused. "He's not just greedy, David. He's cruel. He wants to erase you." That was it. The breaking point. A nursing home. He wanted to lock me away, to take not just my money, but my freedom, my dignity. It wasn't about the money anymore. It wasn't even about the business. It was about survival. I looked at the reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator, the bruised face, the tired eyes. I looked old, but I wasn't weak. I pushed the anger down. I needed a clear head. I needed control. "He's confident," I said, my voice tight. "He's arrogant. And arrogance makes people sloppy," Robert said. "Are you sure about your plan? The envelope might not be enough. Sarah is completely snowed by him." "It has to be enough," I said. "But you're right. I need to expose his character, not just his actions. I need to shatter the illusion she has of him." We went back to the dining room. The air was colder than before. It was time to set the trap. Sarah was getting impatient. She wanted the dinner to be over. She wanted their victory finalized. She tapped her nails on the table. A nervous habit, the fourth conflict, started before I even sat down. "Dad, I need the keys to the new company truck," Sarah demanded. She held out her hand, imperiously, like a queen demanding tribute. "Mark and I are going skiing this weekend. My car is too small for the equipment." The company truck was brand new, purchased for heavy hauling. It wasn't a toy. "No," I said calmly. Sarah looked stunned, as if I had slapped her. "What do you mean, no?" "I always use the company vehicles." "Not anymore," I replied. Her face flushed with anger. Mark looked up, annoyed. "But David, don't be difficult," Mark warned. I ignored him. I didn't budge. I needed to show them I was no longer a pushover. The power dynamic was shifting. They just didn't realize it yet. I needed to execute the next phase. The gamble, the Hail Mary pass. I pulled out my phone under the table. Sent a quick text to Kevin, my apprentice. "Me, are you still at the shop?" "Kevin, yes, Mr. Miller. Finishing up the inventory check. Happy Thanksgiving." "Good kid. Always working." "May I need you to do something important. Contact Mr. Harrison at the aerospace firm. I have a suspicion about Mark. Confirm it. And then I need you to come to my house. Now," I gave him the instructions. It was a long shot, but if I was right about Mark, if I was right about his arrogance, it was necessary. If I was wrong, I was about to lose everything. We sat down for dessert. Pumpkin pie, Linda's recipe. It tasted like ash in my mouth. Sarah was tapping her foot impatiently. Mark seemed agitated by my calmness. He decided it was time to close the deal, to reassert his dominance. "All right, David, enough socializing," Mark said. He pulled the power of attorney folder from his briefcase, placed it on the table next to the pie. It's time to sign these, he commanded. Let's not drag this out. The final confrontation began with a threat. I looked at the papers, then at him. My heart was pounding in my chest. But I kept my expression neutral. I'm not signing anything tonight, Mark. It's Thanksgiving. Mark leaned in close. His voice dropped to a menacing whisper. Only I could hear it. Sign it now, or I will break your other eye. Don't test me. The threat hung in the air, raw, ugly. I held his gaze. The fear was still there, but the resolve was stronger. No, he started to stand up. His face thunderous, his mask slipping. Before he could move, I turned my attention to Emily. I needed to crack the facade completely. I needed her to break. Emily, I said, my voice gentle but firm, you seem very nervous tonight. You keep biting your lip. Why are you so afraid of your brother? Emily gasped. Her eyes darted nervously to Mark. I'm not, she stammered. Don't be ridiculous, David, Mark interrupted, his voice sharp. Leave my sister alone. She's unstable. But the seed of doubt was planted. Sarah was looking at Emily, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. Why would Emily be afraid of Mark? The doorbell rang. The timing was perfect. Everyone froze. The sound cut through the tension like a knife. Who could that be? Sarah asked, annoyed at the interruption. I'll get it, I said. I stood up slowly. My legs felt steadier than they had all night. The time had come. I walked to the front door. Kevin stood on the porch, shifting nervously. He was still in his work clothes, smelling faintly of machine oil. He was holding a stack of papers and a printout of an email. The look on his face told me my gamble had paid off. Kevin, thank you for coming, I said. Mr. Miller? I talked to Mr. Harrison, he whispered. His eyes were wide with worry. It's worse than you thought, sir. Much worse. I know. Come in. I led him into the dining room. The stage was set. The players were in place. It was time for the climax. The climax began not with a bang, but with confusion. Sarah and Mark stared at Kevin, appalled. Dad, who is this? Sarah demanded. She looked at Kevin's greasy clothes with disgust. We're having a family dinner. This is inappropriate. This is Kevin, I said. He works for me, and he has something very important to share about the future of the company. Mark stood up, his face thunderous. David, this is unacceptable. Get this worker out of here. We are discussing private family business. This concerns the business, Mark, I said, my voice calm. In fact, it concerns your vision. I turned to Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin. Kevin swallowed hard. He looked at the expensive food, the crystal glasses. Then at me. He took a deep breath. Sir, the aerospace contract, Kevin said, his voice trembling slightly. The big one, he paused. They canceled it. The silence that followed was absolute. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Mark went pale. The color drained from his face. What? That's impossible. That contract was signed. It was secure. They canceled it an hour ago, Kevin said. His voice gained strength. Mr. Harrison sent the official notification. I called him, like Mr. Miller asked me to find out why. And why was that, Kevin? I asked. My heart was pounding like a drum against my ribs, but my voice was steady. Because of him. Kevin pointed a trembling finger at Mark. The accusation hung in the air and undeniable. Mark sputtered. That's a lie. I've never spoken to them. I don't handle the details. This is a setup. Yes, you did, sir, Kevin said. His voice firm now. Mr. Harrison said you called him on Monday, before the incident at the shop, Mr. Miller. Kevin looked Mark straight in the eye. He said you tried to renegotiate the terms of the contract. You told him the prices Mr. Miller quoted were too low. Kevin continued, that the delivery timeline was too fast. You told him that Miller Machining was under new management, and things were going to change. I watched Mark's face. He was trapped, like a rat in a cage. His eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape. And what did Mr. Harrison say? I prompted. He said that Miller Machining has always honored its commitments for 20 years. He trusted Mr. Miller's word, Kevin looked at Mark with disgust. And then, apparently, you insulted him, sir. You called him a small-time bureaucrat. You said he needed to learn how the real world works. Mr. Harrison terminated the contract, Kevin finished, citing a breach of trust and unprofessional conduct by the incoming management. He handed me the official termination letter, the email printout. The business was suddenly in massive jeopardy. That contract was 40% of our annual revenue. Without it, we would struggle to make payroll. Mark hadn't doubled the revenue. He had destroyed it, before he even took control. Sarah was staring at Mark, horror dawning on her face. The illusion was starting to crack. Mark, is this true? She whispered. You talked to the aerospace client? You told me that contract was the foundation of our expansion, our future. It's a misunderstanding, Mark stammered. He was sweating profusely. The cashmere sweater suddenly looked too hot. I can fix this. I'll call Harrison tomorrow. I'll smooth it over. There's nothing to fix, I said. My voice was tired, but firm. You destroyed 20 years of reputation in a single phone call. That's your vision, Mark. Destruction. This was the moment. The culmination of 48 hours of planning and suppressed rage. It was time for the final blow. I reached beside my chair, picked up the black envelope. It felt heavy in my hands, the weight of the future. I looked at my daughter. Her eyes were wide, filled with confusion, fear, and the first sparks of betrayal. Not from me, but from her husband. Sarah, I believe it's time you saw the truth, I said. Not just about the business, but about the man you married. I handed her the black envelope. She took it with trembling hands. The stark black paper seemed to absorb the light in the room. She opened the flap, pulled out the thick stack of papers inside. The first thing she pulled out was a document from Arthur Vance. My lawyer, what is this? She whispered, her voice hoarse. It's a revocation of the existing power of attorney you had for medical emergencies. I explained. My voice was calm, measured. And it's a cease and desist letter, barring Mark from entering my property or accessing any of my business accounts. Effective immediately. Mark lunged forward. You can't do that. We are married. I have rights. This is illegal. You old fool. Arthur Vance had anticipated this. You have no rights to my company, Mark, I said, my voice cold as steel. It's structured carefully, and after what you did to my face, I pointed to the bruise. I wouldn't trust you to water my plants, let alone run my business. Robert moved to stand between Mark and the table, a silent protector. Sarah pulled out the next set of papers. Mrs. Petrov's forensic audit. Her eyes scanned the pages. Her breath hitched. I heard her gasp. Bank statements. Company accounts. She looked confused. Read the highlighted transactions, Sarah, I said. I watched her face as the reality hit her. Mark hadn't just been planning a takeover. He had already started bleeding the company dry. He thought I was a clueless old man who wouldn't notice. He underestimated me. $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Sarah's voice trembled. Dad, what is this? There are dozens of these. Withdrawals, transfers. That, I said, is your husband embezzling money from the company accounts over the last 6 months. If this story is keeping you hooked, drop a like, and if you want to see how deep this goes, hit subscribe. It was that moment, staring at the evidence of his lies, that I knew I had to burn it all down. He used the company credit card for your trips, I continued relentlessly. The jewelry you're wearing, the down payment on his new Mercedes. He's stolen nearly $50,000. Sarah looked at Mark, her face a mask of disbelief and heartbreak. $50,000? Mark, you told me that money was from your investments. You told me your consulting business was taking off. Mark was desperate, wild, cornered. It's a lie. He's framing me. Your father is delusional. He's trying to turn you against me, Sarah. Don't listen to him. It's all documented, Mark, I said. Mrs. Petrov finalized the audit this morning. The police will be receiving a full report tomorrow. Detective Holden is expecting it. Embezzlement is a serious crime. The threat of jail time hung in the air. Mark went even paler. The victory felt hollow. I was destroying my daughter's life, but I had to save her from this man. I had to show her the truth, even if it broke her. Then Sarah pulled out the last item in the envelope, the background check from Arthur Vance. A photograph was paper-clipped to the front. It was a picture of Mark, younger, smiling broadly, standing in front of an office building. The sign read, "Prestige Investments. Why do you have a picture of Mark's old company?" Sarah asked, confused. "He told me it folded during the recession." That's when Emily, Mark's sister, started to cry. We all turned to look at her. She was sobbing, her hands covering her face, her body shaking. "Emily," Mark hissed, his voice filled with menace. "Shut up. Shut your mouth. Don't say a word." He took a step toward her. Robert blocked him. "Stay away from her, Mark." But Emily couldn't stop. The guilt, the fear, the years of silence. It was all too much. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," she choked out through her tears. "I tried to warn you, I tried to tell you what he is, but I was scared of him. He controls my finances, my life." "What are you talking about?" Sarah demanded, her voice rising in panic. Emily looked up, her face streaked with tears. Prestige Investments wasn't his company. It was his partner's. The truth came spilling out, like poison from a lanced wound. Mark hadn't been a successful businessman. He was a con artist, a predator. He charmed his way into his partner's business, Emily explained, her voice gaining a desperate strength. He inflated the books, took out massive loans, using the partner's credit. "And then?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Arthur's report was detailed. When it all came crashing down, Emily whispered, "He skipped town. He left his partner to face the consequences. And the jail time. He ruined him," Emily sobbed. "His partner lost his house, his family. He went to prison for fraud. And Mark just moved on to the next target." She looked at me, her eyes filled with pity. "That's why he was so desperate for the power of attorney. He wasn't planning to expand the company. He was planning to bleed it dry and disappear. Just like before. The final nail in the coffin." Sarah stared at her husband, the man she had defended, the man she had chosen over her own father, the man she admired for his strength. The illusion shattered completely, leaving behind the ugly reality. Her face turned a deep burning red. Not embarrassment, fury, and profound shame. She looked at me, at my black eye, and she finally understood. "You hit him?" she whispered to Mark, her voice trembling with rage. "You hit my father because he saw through you, because he wouldn't let you steal from him." Mark tried to grab her arm. "Sarah, honey, listen to me. They are lying. Your father, my crazy sister, your uncle, they are all setting me up. You have to believe me. We are a team." Sarah pulled her arm back, as if she had been burned. "Get out," she said. "What?" Mark looked stunned. "Get out of my father's house. Now," she screamed. She pointed at the door. The sound was raw, primal. Mark looked around the table. He saw no allies. Robert was standing by the door, his arms crossed. I was sitting calmly. Even Kevin, the apprentice, was staring at him with disgust. Emily was still crying. He realized it was over. His game was finished. His mask slipped, revealing the ugly, snarling creature underneath. "You'll regret this, Sarah," he spat. "You're nothing without me. You'll be broke and alone. I gave you everything," he glared at me. "And I should have hit you harder. I hope you rot in hell, old man." Robert opened the front door. "Time to go, Mark." Mark stormed out. He slammed the door behind him, so hard the windows rattled. The sound echoed through the house. Then silence, heavy, suffocating. Sarah stood in the middle of the dining room, the contents of the black envelope scattered at her feet. The evidence of her husband's betrayal, her own complicity. She started to cry, not the delicate ladylike tears she sometimes shed, but deep, racking sobs of shame and heartbreak. I didn't go to her. I let her cry. She needed to feel the full weight of her choices. Robert came and sat next to me. He put his hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, David. It was hard, but it was right." I nodded, but I felt no joy, no victory. My eye throbbed. My heart ached. I had saved my company, but I had broken my family. Emily had stopped crying. She looked terrified. What am I going to do? He controls everything. My apartment, my bank account. He'll ruin me. No, he won't, Robert said firmly. We'll help you. Arthur Vance will take your case pro bono. We'll protect you from him. Emily looked at us, a flicker of hope in her eyes. She had finally escaped his shadow. Kevin stood awkwardly in the corner. Mr. Miller, do you need anything else? No, Kevin. Thank you. You did well tonight. You saved the company. I reached into my wallet, pulled out $100 bill. Go home. Enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving. Kevin nodded, relieved. He left quietly. Thanksgiving dinner was ruined. The turkey was cold, the pie untouched. But for the first time in 2 years, I felt a sense of painful peace. The truth was out. The poison was drained. The war wasn't over. But the first battle was won. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Lawyers, accountants, police reports. Detective Holden handled the embezzlement case. He was cynical, seen it all before. These white-collar guys, he muttered, looking over the audit results. They always think they're smarter than everyone else. Mark had vanished, skipped town before the police could arrest him. He was a ghost, a coward, but the damage he left behind was extensive. The financial hole was deep. The loss of the aerospace contract hurt deeply. I had to dip into my retirement savings, keep the shop afloat, make payroll. I couldn't let my crew down. They were loyal to me. I had to be loyal to them. Robert stepped in, used his business expertise to help manage the crisis. We worked 16-hour days, calling clients, begging for favors, trying to repair the reputation that Mark had so carelessly destroyed. It was exhausting, humiliating, but necessary. We managed to secure a few smaller contracts. Enough to keep the lights on, but the future was uncertain. Kevin was a rock. He stepped up, took on more responsibility. His loyalty, unwavering. He rallied the crew, kept morale high, even when things looked bleak. He was the son I wished I had. Sarah filed for divorce. The process was quick. Mark didn't contest it. He didn't want to risk being found by the police. The mansion she dreamed of was gone. The high society life vanished like smoke. She moved back into the house with me. The home she grew up in. She was quiet, subdued, a ghost haunting the hallways. She barely ate, barely spoke. The shame was eating her alive. We lived in the same house, but we were miles apart. The silence between us was vast, filled with unspoken words and lingering resentment. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know if it could be fixed. The wounds were still too fresh. One evening, a month after Thanksgiving, I was sitting in my study, looking at the books, trying to find a way out of the financial hole. The numbers weren't adding up. We were bleeding money. There was a soft knock on the door. It was Sarah. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair unkempt. She was wearing an old sweatshirt of mine. Not the designer clothes she used to favor. She looked humble, broken. "Dad?" she whispered. "Come in, Sarah." She walked into the room, stood in front of my desk, twisting her hands nervously. She looked like a little girl again, the one who was afraid of the dark. I wanted to apologize," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything." She paused, took a deep breath. "For what I said at Thanksgiving," she continued, tears welling up in her eyes. "For not believing. For letting him treat you like that. For choosing him over you." She looked at my face. The bruise had faded completely, but the memory remained, etched between us. "I was so stupid, Dad," she whispered. "I was blinded by his promises, by the lifestyle he offered. I wanted the easy way out. I forgot who I was," she said, the tears rolling down her cheeks. "I forgot what you and Mom taught me, about hard work, integrity, loyalty." I listened quietly. I had waited a long time to hear those words, the words that acknowledged the pain she caused. The anger I felt towards her started to melt away, replaced by a profound sadness for the time we had lost. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," she continued, "but I want to help. I want to fix what I broke. I want to make things right. She took a deep breath, looked me straight in the eye. I want a job at the shop. I looked at her, surprised. Sarah, you don't know anything about machining. You never showed any interest. You hated the smell of the shop. I can learn, she said, her voice firm, a spark of determination in her eyes. The Miller fire. I hadn't seen it in years. I can start at the bottom, she insisted. Sweep the floors, make coffee, answer the phones, learn how to manage the books the right way. Whatever it takes. She paused. I want to work hard. I want to earn my keep. I want to help save the company. Our company. I saw a flicker of the girl she used to be. The determined, stubborn girl who refused to give up. The determined, stubborn girl who refused to give up. The girl Linda and I had raised. I thought about Linda. She would want me to give her a chance to redeem herself, a chance to rebuild. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about moving forward. Okay, I said. My voice was gruff, but I felt a warmth spreading in my chest. You start tomorrow, 7 a.m. sharp. I paused. And Sarah, you'll be treated like any other employee. No favors. Kevin will be your supervisor. She nodded. A genuine smile touched her lips. For the first time in months. Thank you, Dad. I won't let you down. Not again. The next morning, I stood on the shop floor. The familiar smell of oil and metal filling the air. It didn't smell like betrayal anymore. It smelled like home. I watched Sarah. She was struggling to sweep the metal shavings, her movements awkward, clumsy. Kevin was patiently showing her how to hold the broom, a gentle smile on his face. It was going to be a long, hard road. The business might still fail. My relationship with my daughter might never be fully healed. The scars ran deep. But as I watched her work, covered in dust and oil, determined to learn, I felt a glimmer of hope. Money can be lost and regained. Reputations can be repaired. But family, true family, is built on a foundation of hard work, loyalty, and respect. It was a painful lesson, bought with betrayal and a black eye. But sitting at that Thanksgiving table, handing her that black envelope, I realized something profound. Sometimes you have to tear everything down to the studs. You have to break it all before you can start to rebuild. And this time, we would rebuild it right. Together. The old man wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comment. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.